Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another video. And this gentleman I've got with me today, you have all been asking for, saying, get Pear on, get Pear on, get Pear on. So I've gone and got the Pear. Big Ant himself is here. How are you doing, my friend?
It's great, Pommy. It's good to be on the channel. Making the debut. I feel like a #1 draft pick at the moment. Ready to go full throttle with this video, mate. So very much keen. It's good to be on.
Mate, I'm looking forward to it. So, I mean, obviously, you're a manic Port fan. And last season was one of them ones that was just a little bit disappointing for you guys. Didn't quite make the 8. How did you, like, now you've had a bit of time to digest it, how did you see last year and how are your feelings?
Yeah, I've sort of accepted what 22 was now, and it's good to come to grips with the fact that we can now just all look forward to 2023. I think majority of Port fans will agree this is going to be the one that we just simply forget. It's one that was vastly different to what we wanted. It was very disappointing, but we've just got to accept what happened. And yeah, there's 0-5 start, the losses to the top 8 teams, the heartbreak, injuries galore. It all seemed to culminate into one season, and we got all those boxes ticked for it to be very disappointing. But the beauty of AFL footy, mate, is we go into 2023 with a fresh look and a new vibe.
Mate, I love that outlook. I mean, it was a weird season, wasn't it, for Port? Because it started, like you say, horrendously, and then you started to get a little bit of form, and every time you kind of looked good, something happened on the training track, or someone got injured, or something. It was just a real bad. It's almost like Ken Hinkley ran over a cat.
I'll tell you what, people would love if Ken Hinkley ran over a black cat and got the sack. And I can tell you there's a lot of people in the fan base that would love that to happen. But in saying that, yeah, it didn't really pan out in any way, shape, or form. We were losing games by less than a goal. I think it was like 6 or 7 we had in the end, which is, let's face it, that's a third of the season. We had injuries in round 1. There were just multiple times we just looked awful on the field. We won games that we probably shouldn't have. It was just one of those years where you just think, far out. We had paid membership for that.
You're talking to a Carlton fan. So, I mean, there's many a time I'm here thinking, why did I pay for that? But, I mean, you did touch on the close wins and close losses you had. And it's quite funny. You and Collingwood had the most 2 score games. And you saw, if it goes your side, Collingwood were top 4. And I always think it's quite funny because we had a similar season under David Teague where we had a load of narrow wins. And I remember doing the review of that and saying, just think if it went the other way, we would have been 14th and 15th. Would you be excited? It's interesting, that mindset, because obviously Collingwood are at the other end of the scale where the rub of the green went their way. You were at that unlucky thing. So, I mean, do you look at that with a little bit of hope and think, maybe that just means we're 2 cogs away and that changes we're top 4? Or do you think you're in, like, need to have a rebuild type, little mini structural rebuild?
It's a tough one because we've gone through a mini sort of rebuild a couple of years back, picking up like Rosie, Dersma, Butters in the draft. I think we went all in. We're in a prime list at the moment. So I don't think a full rebuild would do the trick. It points towards no change at the top with Ken Hinkley, and that might be another reason to go for. But I don't know. You look at the whole point around losing games by less than a goal. To me, that's a mentally challenged team. All the players were definitely feeling it, and I reckon it comes down to the fact that what happened in the last 2 prelims. We lost a prelim by less than a goal, and then we got absolutely pumped by the Dogs in a prelim. So the club, I think, has been mentally challenged, and I would say that's probably the main aspect, taking it away from skills and structures and everything like that. It's purely up in the head. We weren't good enough for that this year to bounce back after what was the year before with the prelim. So I think that has to be a big focus. But then again, like, you look, the group's so tight. I don't think anything in terms of a camaraderie or the feel around the club is bad. I think it's more so, yeah, just the on-field, that extra step. We are missing probably, I'd say, 1.5% of what will be another finals berth, another potential flag. And I reckon that's just the injury part.
It's them things, them injuries. I think a lot of teams, we were one of the teams that suffered. You had the Eagles as well. It seems to be AFL's a weird sport as opposed to like my native round ball, that when injuries happen in AFL, it's almost like a pandemic. You don't seem to get one injury. It seems to be 4, 5, 6, 7 players in a week. It's a weird thing, isn't it?
Oh, and it's funny because it hits the players that you don't expect it'll hit. And then when it does hit the players you know they expect it will hit, it goes big. Like we had Charlie Dixon in pre-season. You look at his season last year, he played every single game. He kicked, I think it was close to 50 goals. And we got into a prelim final. He misses the first 10 or so games this year or something around that. And it's like he's kicked 12, I think 16 goals in 8 games. It had an impact when he came back, but he's missed a first chunk of the year. And where were we bad? The first chunk of the year, the first 5. So our players as a collective, 22 players make the difference and make the team, but it's individual brilliance that can take you over. And that's probably that 1.5% I was talking about. So injuries are a bitch. I'm going to be honest.
mate, you are preaching to the choir. I feel you. And it's like you say, it's funny. It's always the players that you don't expect to get injured. Do you know what I mean? Like as a Carlton fan, we open our news and we see Mitch McGovern's injured and you're like, oh, grass is green, sky's the blue. And then it's a player like Sam Walsh who gets injured and you're like, hang about, he's indestructible. Like he can't be injured.
Yeah.
So no, I feel you. But you talked about moments of brilliance. Obviously, you said goodbye to someone that's probably hated by the viewers of this channel in Robbie Gray, because that guy turns into a Brownlow medalist when he plays Carlton. How did you feel about Robbie finally hanging up his boots?
Look, it wasn't a shock. I definitely expected it after, especially the first half of the year and the way we were going, and he wasn't really getting into a groove that we'd probably expect from a Robbie type of character. And it definitely was expected towards the end of the year. Didn't stop me from absolutely bawling my eyes out watching him play in the last game. And I think, we saw the result, beating the Crows in a showdown. There was 50,000 people at the ground. He is one of the most loved characters at Port Adelaide. He's been through so much throughout his years, through injuries, health issues and everything. And there's not one other player, I don't think, in our team at the moment that can probably match what Robbie had and what he brought to the club. So he's going to be missed. And I'm glad he's still sticking around in an off-field role because he can definitely spot talent, i.e. Zach Butters, who was the one that picked him out. So, I mean, he's still going to be around, but it's going to be vastly different not seeing Gray named in the forward pocket that come next year.
It is. I mean, being here like just over 10 years, when these players retire now, I'm so used to seeing Gray in the Port side. Like that's my no-brainer every week. I know he's going to play. So, I mean, yeah, we wish him well on behalf of the channel, even though he's made me cry a few times, not for tears of joy. It's been tears of pain, but no, what a great player, a great servant to football as well.
Yeah, definitely. And we've still got the highlights packages, Pom. So it's definitely going to be featuring that round 7, 2020.
Yeah, I think people tagged me in it when you did the retirement. They happened to have that as his highlight package, and I was like, "Yeah, cheers for that." Yeah, I mean, cheers, people.
Anthony Hudson's commentary is my ringtone.
Yeah. I think my ringtone is Mark Murphy's goal versus Freo. That always sticks out for me as well.
Yeah, that was fantastic, that one.
But yeah, we wish him well. But as the season finished, obviously Gray going, Motlop also got jettisoned, which probably wasn't a surprise. What were you thinking that you wanted in after the start? Like you've touched on the injuries. What were you hoping to see from the trade period and ultimately the draft to follow?
We needed probably 3 key aspects in my eyes, and it's definitely a small forward. Like we have Arampatzis, Fantasia, but he's never on the park. We have a Sam Powell-Pepper and a Lockie Jones role where they're basically balls with their forward pressure, and they both played that really well. But we didn't have that crafty small forward like that Robbie Gray type. And you can't really have an Orazio on the field and a Robbie who's retiring in there next year. So we needed a small forward. We probably needed another bulky midfielder with a lot of pace, someone that's clean to complement Connor Rosie and Travis Boak. And probably the other thing that probably killed us a lot last year was there was big bags of goals kicked against us. Geelong was a perfect example. Jeremy Cameron and Tom Hawkins, they kicked 5 apiece against us, and we needed probably a big, tall, key defender to probably take them. So they were probably the 3 main aspects. And coming in, I wasn't expecting fireworks like we ended up doing, but I really wanted Josh Dunkley. I was really liking the link we had with Mackay, not Carlton's. Speaking of North Melbourne's, although they're the same person, so we probably couldn't have gotten both. And I think there was another one we were linked to. So I wasn't really expecting us to come out with a Horn Francis, a Junior Rioli, and draft picks that were putting us in a position to actually grab some decent talent from the draft pool. So it was a crazy few weeks in that trade period. And when I saw that rumor drop of Horn Francis, my heart rate sort of went up like it was round 21 all over again. So yeah, a massive off season for us, and I think it's put the fan base back in a bit more invested as well, which is something that was lacking, especially with the results. So there's a lot of investment in the club, and now it's just time for Kenny to turn it around in this preseason.
You were super active, weren't you, in that trade period as well? Like, we had the Carl Amon, which was like the worst kept secret in the AFL, him walk over to Hawks. But after that, it went quiet, and then you guys like really started. You did that trade with Melbourne, and yeah, like because Melbourne obviously just didn't value picks anymore, with them obviously manipulating every system known to man. So you got that in. But the Jason Horne-Francis, how did you feel? Because obviously here in Victoria, Jason Horne-Francis became the most hated human being in the world for leaving North. Obviously, he's a South Australian boy. How was your impression of Jason Horne-Francis, and are you excited by that?
I've always been impressed by him, especially from his South Adelaide days. I really thought that he was a class above the sample, and I did have question marks over coming into the AFL about whether or not he could produce that. And I think he did in spurts. But for someone of his caliber to go to a club like North Melbourne that probably didn't have what was needed to bring him as a number 1 draft pick to that potential, that's why I think a lot of people had question marks. When I heard that he was coming to Port Adelaide and we got the deal done, I got very excited because we have no draft picks in the first 2 rounds. And I'm thinking, you know what? If you're trading away your draft picks for this year to go hell on end into getting one of the best super talents of this generation, or potentially anyway, I'm all for leaving the first 2 rounds with no draft picks, because we're essentially getting a number 1 draft pick for pick 7, 19, or whatever else we did, but we've got that now. So it's almost like it was complementing each other in a sense, and it was a perfectly dealt with deal. And I was surprised it didn't get done on the last day, and it got done a couple of days earlier, which even excited me a lot more because we ended up getting Junior Rioli part of that, and basically ran away scot-free with it, because I think they're both super talents. And to get Horne-Francis, I mean, yeah, he brings that baggage, and the expectation will be on the field. We've signed him with a 6-year deal, so it's a long-term investment. And we're not expecting, to be the number 1 player in the comp next year. You can't expect that from that second-year player, basically. But what we'll expect is him to develop into a player that for the next 5-6 years, we have someone to rely on, and we're going to have a super talent in our midfield. So I'm personally very excited. I think the fan base is very excited, and it'll just be a matter of whether or not Ken Hinkley and their team can bring that to fruition. But yeah, I was very excited for me.
No doubt, because I didn't mind it. I thought, like, based on where your future first, it was a future first, wasn't it? And a swap of thirds, basically, for that individual deal. I thought it was unders, really, just if you take him into account. But Are you going to find someone better with pick 12, 13, 14 next year than Jason Horne-Francis? Probably not. So, like, I thought it was a huge dub for you. And he was quite open about his love of moving to South Australia. So I always think that gives an extra 20% of what you've seen in Victoria anyway. And it's exciting what you're building. You've got some very quality under 23s there that really are probably decade-long players at Port Adelaide.
Yeah, definitely. And I mentioned the names before. You got Rosie, Butters, Dersma. Rosie came into his own last year. Butters has had just injuries pop up. We spoke about injuries before. He's one that just has freak injuries, and I don't know how or why, but he just does because he's a battering ram. Dersma's had a very unlucky run with injuries as well. Complements the likes of Todd Marshall. I've seen Lockie Jones, Sam Powell-Pepper. Jace Burgoyne is someone we unleashed late in the year who seems to be at AFL level straight away. He's just going to come in, Horne-Francis, and complement those players. And if he's delivering the ball inside 50 to a Todd Marshall and Mitch Georgiadis is another one, and then you're going to have the big caliber of Charlie Dixon, it not only brings in the fact that we can have another rotation through the midfield, it helps out Travis Boak. Like, there's not much pressure on him. And the likes of Jackson Mead as well. Like, there's so many talented players and individuals on our list. We can get a good run at it next year, have a good consistency about them, then they're going to have a lot of confidence. And we know in AFL footy, confidence is a very, very dangerous part of the game. And if you get it right, you can go a long way.
Mate, confidence is huge. And I also think you've got a little bit of nastiness about you. I'm looking forward to watching you guys because we know Butters is a psychopath. Like, he's in your top 3 people. If someone owes you money, I'm calling Zach Butters to come and help me collect it. Yeah. He looks like he's a dangerous guy. But I also like Dersma and Jason Horne-Francis working together because they've been spoken about a lot in the negative light. I think that's going to make you a really exciting team in the terms of all eyes are going to be on you. And these 2 young men, they give it back to the media. And I think we need more players like that who are willing to be themselves and maybe stick 2 fingers up at the media once in a while.
Yeah, I think so. I think the biggest part about our game was always we lacked attitude and we lacked polish. So I think bringing a bit of attitude to our club and a bit of me time. We've never really had me time. It's always been family and fun, which is great. It's a great positive light to have as a football club, and it brings in a lot of attention from the outside in terms of money and media and everything like that. But the way we pumped up the showdown with our messages was just a bit. I don't know if over in Victoria or in other states they got to see how we pumped up in the media. The showdown was basically we're going to bash the living crap out of the Adelaide Crows. We hate them. Like, it was these types of messages coming through to media. Like, that doesn't happen anymore. So the way we did that, the publicity, I thought was different. And I know it was for a nothing game, but to have that kind of attitude, if we brought that into every single game on the field next year, we could be bullies. And not in a sense where we just acted cocky, but we go about our business, we do what we have to do, but then we put some class and polish on the top. And that's what good teams do. We've lacked that. We definitely lacked it in 2022. But with these types of players and their attitudes, maybe that's what we can bring to the game plan next year.
Mate, I love it. And I think you're building something quite strong and special. And I like that physicality. I think you've got that little bit of hard edge now with some young kids, which is exciting. And we talked about class. I actually thought your best trade was Junior Rioli, a guy that I think is game-changing. And I don't think maybe he's shown it enough at the Eagles for whatever reason. But I think he's hopefully the Motlop you hoped, what you hoped Motlop to be. I think he is a world-class talent, and I'm looking forward to that. What were your thoughts when Junior moved over to you guys?
Look, I'll be honest, I actually thought the opposite. I thought it was a bit, we're just filling a void. And I don't have much expectation for Junior Rioli. We've seen he had a fantastic first year at West Coast. Obviously, his recent history off the field hasn't been great. But, you come to a new club, you have a fresh start, and fully respect what he's been able to do. And he's obviously had personal issues as well just recently. So I think I respect that aspect of trying to find a new home and bringing a different attitude and different vibe. And I think he's going to benefit from that really well. And I hope he brings something a lot more to the table than probably what Motlop did. And Motlop had his moments, the showdown win against the Crows. He kicked the winner, the prelim, the qualifying final against Geelong. But a bit more consistency is. I wouldn't mind seeing him kick one goal a game and have 13 touches. But at least he's had that impact. And as a small forward, you don't need to have 25 and kick 2. If you had 10 touches, kick 2 goals, and have that on a consistent basis, I think your small forwards win your games of footy. So that's probably what I expect from him. And I don't have any expectations, and I don't think many do either from him as a fan base, which I think when you come to a new club is absolutely fantastic because you can start afresh, you have your mind clean, and you can just go out there and enjoy your footy with a new club.
No, mate, I agree. I mean, keeping it. I mean, obviously, like you say, he's had the off-field issues, personal, and obviously he's got himself into a bit of strife with his testing. But he seems raring to go, and I think there's no escaping his talent. And at the moment, Eagles, I kind of felt sorry for him last year. If he was playing a full game, like they look in all kinds of pain. So maybe a bit like Jason Horne-Francis, playing for a stabilised club that has good structure. Hopefully, you get the best out of him because I think he's high level if he's got that love and affection. I think you guys bring that.
Yeah, definitely. And we were speaking off air about how Ken Hinkley and brings a real connection to the club, and I think he's going to be another one that will benefit from that. And we know Ken Hinkley's a great person to be around in terms of with people, and he really brings that culture around. I'm still hoping we keep that culture with the new players and the new draftees and everything. We can, and the ones coming in will really feel that and benefit from that. So it'll definitely get more positives than negatives from that type of culture that we've got at the moment. It'll just be a matter of performing.
Mate, that's the hard bit. Do you know what I mean? The easy bit's just getting the plane, isn't it?
Yeah, that's it. The old check-in's fine. I just want you to get on the field.
And obviously you talked about draft and you managed to get quite a few picks. And I didn't mind your trade period because you ticked a few boxes. Like Tom McCullum came in, and he's that rangy, probably defender you want, that highly athletic guy. But the guy I'm excited about is a friend of the channel and one of my favorites we interviewed, Tom Scully. He mentioned he's a manic Port fan on the interview, and his idol's Charlie Dixon. You're looking forward to seeing him learn off the great Charlie Dixon. And what did you think of the other draftees?
Yeah, I really was impressed with how he benefited from the picks we had. Picks 33, 53, and 59. You don't really come into a draft thinking you're going to get three decent picks anyway. You're definitely going to get some quality talent, but not to the level of your picks 1 to 20. But to see, I loved the emotion of Tom Scully, and when I saw his name pop up as the one we drafted, I'm thinking, not number one draft pick from all those years back, Tom Scully. We've picked up a big, tall Tom Scully, and I'm like, oh, so excited, and it was great to see. And then to dive a bit deeper into who he was, and obviously a manic Port fan, but his reaction from his family, and then the video with him in the Guernsey was absolutely phenomenal. I was very impressed by what he could bring. He had a very good under-18 championships, and I think learning from Charlie Dixon, especially if there's any forward you want to learn from the comp where you just bring not forward craft or not any of this, technicality stuff, just hard fighting spirit, real heart and energy to the forward line. He'll benefit from that and complements the likes of Todd Marshall and Mitch Georgiadis going into the future. So I'm very happy for Tom. In terms of the other pickups, we had Kyle Marshall, another Marshall, come to the football club. And, yeah, as he said, Tom McCullum. So two tall defenders, one that can probably play a range of different positions in terms of Tom McCullum with his height. Very flexible, which I think is someone that can replace like a Tom Jonas in the future, play tall or small, which is I think another benefit from our defensive attributes. But also Kyle Marshall is a big, tall, lanky key defender. Reminds me of me in my Div 5 days. Just absolutely is going to really enjoy being around the likes of Libbojrjr, and I think learn from that craft as well. Intercept marking, I think, is one of his strengths too. So I think we've got what we had in terms of picks, what we've brought into the club. We've gone 10 out of 10. I was seeing like Fox Footy's ratings for the draft, and I was thinking, you've given us a C for what? Like, that's average. I think for what we've got, for the picks we had, as I said, we've ticked every box. We've gone through for what we need in terms of depth. We've identified the areas that we need. I think it was a perfect draft 10.
Mate, I thought you did really well. Like when you, like you say, when you're starting, like covering the draft on this channel, like we do, when you're starting in pick 30s, do you know what I mean? It's pretty much you behind the 8 ball. You're doomed before you start. So it's all about talent acquisition. And I agree with you. If your aim was getting them replacements for Jonas and players like that in the long term, I thought you nailed it. And I was surprised because Tom had a really good back half as well. Really, really good back half of the year for Tassie. And he was shooting up draft boards. So I thought, like, you guys getting in there, you did your business. There was no fanfare. C's a little bit harsh, I think. If you had a pick in the top 10, it's maybe a C. But I think from 30s, I think you've ticked all the boxes and you've probably got best available at each pick. So I liked it, to be fair.
Yeah, I think, and us as a fan base, I definitely could see the level of excitement was probably a bit meh. I don't think we had any expectations going into the draft, which, obviously, as we talked about with the trade period, we just went all out. And to come into the draft period, we're looking to pick up some young talent to fill the areas that we needed. We didn't have much excitement about the draft, but we went about our business. And when it comes to recruitment at Port Adelaide, we're normally very, very good in terms of draft hands. So I think, we've done a good job for what we have. And I'm looking forward to seeing what they bring. There's always a different type of energy. And we've had players in picks 40s, 50s, and 60s go on to have magnificent careers, i.e. Robbie Gray, i.e. Justin Westhoff.
Mate, I agree with you. And it's something we say on the draft show quite a bit. These 30s are usually where the 200 gamer comes from. It's one of the forgotten picks, really. Everyone always raves about the top 10, but these are squad players, the guys that do win your flags. Like any idiot can be Dustin Martin, but Dustin Martin can't win a flag without McIntosh, without all the other guys doing the hard yakka for him. So you never know. These guys here could be the next Port Adelaide flag stalwarts at the back.
Well, you mentioned the players that make up the team. I'm talking like we had in our 04 campaign, Toby Thurston's, Dom Cassisi at that stage, and look where he ended up being a captain of the club. Damien Hardwick wasn't the best player in the team, but he was hard fought. He did the team thing, and his attitude was sensational. So there's just players in your team that you just tick boxes when you play games of footy. And if Tom Scully can come in and kick 2 goals a game, down the track, he's done his job as a tall forward, create chances and opportunities. Tom McCullum does his job keeping, let's say Tyson Stengel quiet in 5 years' time. You just never know what they're going to do. And I think, as long as they bring the right attitude and bring everything they need to be the best players they can be, then why not?
Mate, I agree with you. And it's all that wait and see. That's why these ratings are so nonchalant because, do you know what I mean? North Melbourne have won the trade period, most people are saying. But, like, if Sheasel, heaven forbid, and Wardlaw do an ACL and then retire in 2025, that A quickly becomes the Z, doesn't it?
Yeah. I mean, we've seen number 1 picks. We've seen top 5 picks, top 10 picks. They've done nothing with their careers. Like, it's a massive pressure to have. And when you fall into a pick 30, 40, 50, even a 60, there's no expectation on your shoulders. You're just happy to be on an AFL list. And now you've got the opportunity to fulfill your dream, fulfill your career. And it's purely up to you to do what you want to do with the opportunity you've been given. So I'd be, if I got picked up at pick 85, I couldn't give a stuff. I'm going full throttle on day 1 of pre-season just to show that I'm here playing AFL. So it's going to be wild to see every draft pick, but yeah, I'm happy with what we've got.
And now it's settled. How did you personally rate your off-season? Are you really happy with the acquisitions? Is there anything you wish you'd maybe ticked a box on?
Probably the only one thing I was disappointed about was Asava Radaglia, and that's not our fault. I think that's more the fact that Geelong were just petty. But insane, I think that was probably the only downfall, not picking up someone that could probably fulfill that big key defender role. I know we've fulfilled that in the draft, but obviously going to develop the players that we've got, and they might take a little time. They're going to be a bit raw. So to have someone that was probably key and prime, ready to go, that was probably the only downfall, I think, of our trade period. Other than that, I think we've ticked every box. We've done what we can. It's just a matter of putting it out on the field for 22 games next year, or 23 now with the Magic round, and somehow get given the opportunity to play in finals and potentially win a flag. So we've done well. I think the fan base is now happy. Just don't miss the finals next year, Port, please.
Mate, I'm sure you'll be up there. And you did mention the Magic round. Obviously, AFL invades South Australia. Are you excited about that? Are you going to go mental and watch other teams, or is it not something you really get excited about?
I'm definitely excited. I'm very happy. I wasn't a fan of the concept. I really thought that, all of this talk about lowering the number of games in a season, or, making the fixture fair, and then we've all of a sudden thrown in a Magic round. We have an extra game for the year. Like, that's the logistics of it, like with injuries and stuff like that, does concern me a little. But in terms of coming to South Australia, we get to showcase not just the Adelaide Oval, but different parts of South Australia as well. I think there are going to be 3 or 4 games played country or in and around the Adelaide area, which is fantastic. And I'll be going. I think for here, all the local leagues stop for the weekend or don't even start. So it's going to be just a weekend bender of me just going to watch as many AFL games of footy as possible. I don't care if it's St Kilda, Fremantle, it's 7:10 on a Sunday night. I'll be there at the Adelaide Oval to watch it. It's just going to be magnificent because you don't get this opportunity. So I even watched Gold Coast versus North Melbourne. I don't care if that's played at a beach. I'll go watch it. Like, that's just how cool it is to have it here.
No, mate, I love it. I mean, I'm with you. I thought you have Dangerfield at the Players Association saying we play too much football, and 2 minutes later they agree an extra game, and I'm like,
yeah,
doesn't quite make sense. But I mean, I like the concept. I think it's quite a novel concept, and I think it's exciting, really, because there's a lot of Victorians fans in South Australia of clubs, and I always think Australia is such an expensive country to travel. It makes sense for the fan base, because I think we saw with COVID in Victoria how popular the game is outside of these 4 walls.
Yeah, well, that's it. And we had a few friends travel over for the AFLW showdown. They were from Victoria. They just road trip, came over, and they made a weekend of it. And they reckon they had one of the best weekends they've had, going away. So the temptation to just drive over from Victoria to South Australia would be very much a prominent one in a lot of Victorians' minds. And Carlton have a big fan base over here, Pommy. I would very much like to see you over here. We'll have a couple of coldies and enjoy Sam Walsh and Patrick Cripps and Kerno and Guy kick a few. The temptation's there, mate.
Hey, mate, I might take you up on that offer. Could do a vlog. Do you know what I mean? I'll drive with some road beers. Obviously not at the same time. If the place to watch it. But no, mate, I would love that. I definitely will put that pencil in. We'll definitely have a few beers and we can get a vlog going. And with 2023, my friend, how are you seeing 2023? What are the expectations from yourself and the fan base?
Well, we've just seen round 1 literally get launched at 6:30 a.m. on a Sunday morning, which, by the way, was absolutely bizarre, but very funny at the same time. I'm expecting a bounce back, and I just want to see a prominent Port Adelaide side and actually dominate. Like, I want us to turn it on, everything to just click, and I think round 1 will be the ultimate test. That's how I always see the season, how round 1 will be. We've always played North Melbourne or Fremantle, or teams that aren't going to be there, and we've won them. Last year we played Brisbane at the Gabba and we dominated, but we still lost the game because we had about 12 injuries. So we've got at home against Brisbane, one of the key figures of 2022 in the final series. That's the test for me. If we win that, we've got a long way to setting up a big 2023 season. And I'm still excited. You can't not get excited about a season, no matter how you think it will pan out or how it doesn't pan out. It's footy, mate. I love it. So we'll get on the bandwagon again and make sure that we're there to support every single week. So I'm keen. But if not, if we suck, buy Ken Hinkley.
I'd say he's one of the coaches under pressure, isn't he, Ken Hinkley? Even in Victoria, we felt the heat in South Australia. There was a lot of rumblings that everyone was wanting a change. Would you say that if he doesn't make finals, in your opinion, do you think he'll be there next year if you guys don't make finals?
Yeah, 100%. And you know, it's the first 10 games for me, like leading up into whatever bye we have. So 10, 11 games. If we're sitting at the bye and we're like 5-7 or 5-5, the writing is on the wall. If we lose 0-5 again, he'll be gone by magic round. I think the writing is clearly on the wall. He's got no contract after 2023. The pressure's there from the media now. We've had pressure from the fan base for the last 2 or 3 years. The club definitely is confident in Ken, but also at the same time, I reckon they're very much wary of the situation. And if we make finals, make a semi or a prelim, there could be an opportunity to extend. Knocked out in the first round, I still think he gets the sack. A grand final win, you give him a 10-year contract, and we go on a 6-month bender with him. So we'll see. I'll say if we don't make finals, he's gone. If we make finals, it's probably 50-50, depending on the performance we give in that time of the year. So look, it's nerve-wracking, but at the same time, pressure creates diamonds. So you just never know.
Mate, spot on. And I think Carlton fans share the same sentiment. If Voss happens to deliver a premiership, we probably forfeit the year after because we'll still be drinking in Bali.
You know what? If Voss wins you guys a premiership, send us some credits because you know where he came from.
Mate, we do. And I mean, how do you feel like that? Is Voss much loved? There was a lot of rumours. I've got to admit, what I love about doing Carlton content is whenever we're linked with someone who's not at our club or not a former player, you suddenly get a mate at Carlton who's like, oh, one of my mates is a Port fan. And he says everyone hated Voss and he used to smash up the rooms and stuff. There's these malicious rumours. Was Voss much loved by Port?
Well, early on he wasn't. And he came to the club in a period of time where we were on the verge of either going to greatness or dropping out. It was that 2019-2020 period coming into COVID. But then you look at this year, how we performed without him on the coaching panel, and there is a difference. And I put that to 2-part. One, Voss's development as a key assistant coach was mainly to the fact he learnt that role. He developed a sense of, he knew what to do. We obviously knew he's an experienced senior coach at Brisbane. And you always get a better run second time. And he might not be the number one priority to get, but he might be the best candidate. There's always 2 parts of that. So believe the rumors if you want to. He's a very, very, very good man. Got a great family with his son, who's currently, I think he got drafted or something as well. So he's very close to being drafted. You've got a very good coach. I'm telling you now, he will take you to places, hopefully above 9th. But it definitely will be places, and he's got a good caliber about him, and he knows success. So he was very good at Port. He made a difference. He'll make a difference at Carlton too.
Mate, I love that. You see, I never believed the rumours, and I was a big one. Like, don't believe it. Like, every time Carlton are linked with someone, and I'm sure it happens at Port, there is always a Carlton fan that has a mate at that club, and there's he said, she said tale of death and destruction, and it does my head in because every Port fan I've spoke to rated Voss, so it was just weird. So that should put it at rest.
Well, if it's coming from me, it should. And if it doesn't put it to rest, then my credibility in this game is no longer valid. So, whoever's watching, each their own. But I'm telling you, you've got a good one. Fossey's going to be taking you a long way.
Mate, and how do we find you? Everyone here, if they're a Port fan, we've got a few of them in my comments. How do they go and find you, my friend?
YouTube, the Pear, all one word. I think I'm becoming one of the elder statesmen now on that platform. And if you want to follow me on Twitter and have a lot of bants, at Anthony Alessiani. So we can have a bit of a chat during footy season, because it's absolutely mental on Twitter when it comes to footy season. And there's a good and bad side to that, but it's always very fun and enjoyable. So, yeah, you can find me there. I'm not going to bite. And if you want to chat, I'm always open.
Make sure everyone goes there. The links are in the description at the top. Well, I mean, Anthony, mate, I've really enjoyed this. This has been grouse. We'll have to do it again soon, mate. But I agree with you. Twitter is a dark place, isn't it?
I enjoy it because it's so funny watching people lose their minds over stuff that doesn't affect anyone else's lives. But it is I enjoy it for that fact, because there's no point biting into the fishing regime that they have going there. But each to their own. If you want to make an opinion, make something controversial, then go for it. But yeah, it can be a place. It's definitely a place.
Yeah, I've got to say, footy bants, it's like Rex Hunt fishing show, isn't it? I've got to say.
It's like, have you been paying attention, that TV show where everyone just has an answer, spitting stuff out, and there's no right answer. So, yeah, it's good to keep up to date with content. Sometimes it's just not factual.
It's good fun. I mean, as a Carlton fan, Kane Corns is probably our favourite on Twitter, because as soon as he posts, Twitter erupts.
I love him. I think he's great. He's great for the game in terms of having a presence, because we always have people that want to be right or first to be right, and then you just have Kane Corns, who's just believes he's right and couldn't give a stuff if he's wrong. So I think he's the perfect mix to have in the media, and something a bit different, and he gets people talking. And the best part about a game is we always get to talk about the game itself. So he's great.
Mate, I'm a fan. I'm a fan of Kane Corns as well. I'm a big fan. I think you need that controversy sometimes. It gets people thinking, gets people talking, and ultimately, the more people talking, the better it is for our great game.
Exactly. And how do you get promotion? How do you get sponsors? You talk about it and create awareness. And if you're looking to sponsor a football club, don't go to the Twitter comments. Just see how they're performing. That's all I say. Actually, sometimes if the team's performing as well as the Twitter comments, you don't want to sponsor at all. But that's just a whole other story.
Well, mate, honestly, it's been an absolute pleasure. Everyone, make sure you head over to the Pear on YouTube and go and say hi on Twitter. Make sure you like and subscribe and everything he does. And, mate, once again, thank you so much for joining me today. It's been grouse.
It's been an absolute pleasure to make my debut on the channel, mate, and looking forward to doing much more content. I'm holding you to the vlog and the beers, mate. I look forward to it.
Mate, I'll have a weekend away from the wife and cut loose.
I'll just have a weekend away. I don't care.
Cheers, my friend. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks, mate.